As two saved, Bible-believing Christians, that fear stepped in, and we considered something I would have said we would never consider. In 2015, we had finally found out that we were pregnant after 2 years of trying. And we went in for the ultrasound for the first time, and we left with, it said, between 2 to 4 fetuses. And so we kind of spent the next 2 weeks going,
It's going to be 2.
it's got to be 2.
It's going to be 2.
It's got to be 2. Can't be 4.
No way it's 4. It's going to be 2.
2 weeks later, and as soon as we looked at the screen, like, it's 4. And it was really obvious. Prior to March of 2015, I would have told you that there were no circumstances under which I would consider abortion for our family. When you add enough fear and doubt and uncertainty in my life, a lot of thoughts like, can we do this? How can we do this? Can my body do this? Could we lose all of them? You know, just all this fear that came from a whole different plan than what we had envisioned all of a sudden in front of us. And then, you know, when the doctor said, well, you have the option to reduce, which, you know, of course meant abort. In our fear, it was hard to dismiss that option. He wasn't for it at all. He was just explaining it to us, but it was so simple and clinical sounding, you know. It was like, we just insert a needle and the heart stops and that fetus just naturally absorbs, and that's the end of that.
Well, and we were told one of them had about a 50-50 shot at just going naturally, you know, not coming full term. So the doctor described some of the health complications that could happen with caring for children, you know, not only to her body but to the children as well. So there was that thought, well, why don't we just make things easier?
It was just sleepless night after sleepless night. I would think about having the babies, and I would feel sick to my stomach. And I would think about aborting one or more babies, and I would feel sick to my stomach. And there was just no peace in any of it for me. I couldn't see a way out of it where anything was going to be okay. You know, we had prayed for this thing for so long, and then this completely different thing came along, and it just seemed insurmountable to us. One night before small group, I felt led to send a text to my leader and ask if she'd meet me. And she agreed to meet me early, and I got there, and I pushed the ultrasound across the table to her, and I just poured it all out. And I just went on and on and on for like 5 minutes, and she didn't say a word. And at the end of 5 minutes, she waited until I was done talking, and she slid the ultrasound back across the table to me. And she looked me in the eye and she said, Jen, God is the author of life and death, and you know that. And it was like I could see again, and I had been carrying this burden that wasn't mine. They weren't mine. You know, from that point I realized we may lose a baby, we may lose 2, we may lose 3. We could lose all 4 of these babies, but it was not going to be because I decided to stop that heart. And everything changed from there. Guys, guess what today is? You just finished 100 days of kindergarten. 100 days! Yay for you!
I remember we left that doctor's appointment where he gave us that option, and I mean, I think I was speechless for over 24 hours, like literally speechless, didn't say a word for 24 hours. After I kind of got over that initial shock, I called my sponsor. Now, I'm in recovery, and I kind of talked through that with him, and he told me to pray about it. And after praying about it and thinking about it for a little while, you know, it felt too much like if I were to make that decision, I was the one playing God. And that's not my role in this life. And when we went back to the doctors 2 weeks later and we told him our decision that we weren't going to be doing any sort of reduction or abortion, he said a prayer with us, which I found, you know, it's something I remember very distinctly, and I thought that was very powerful.
We had been, I think, almost hoping that baby C just kind of quietly disappeared. And we stopped that. We started praying for baby C to be strong and thrive. And then at 15 weeks, we found out we were having 3 boys and a girl. And almost immediately, they ceased to be A, B, C, and D. And we went forward and we named them. And we were able from that point to start praying for Micah and Becker and Roland and Marin. We invited friends to pray with us, and we just stepped forward in faith that everything was going to be okay. You know, whatever the situation, whatever the complications, that it was just going to be okay, because it wasn't ours to carry. This was God's deal. And we had been trying to make a choice that wasn't ours to make, and so of course we had no peace about it.
Happy birthday to you.
Yay! How old are you, Micah?
5.
As 2 saved, Bible-believing Christians, that fear stepped in, and we considered something I would have said we would never consider. And I just so feel for these women all over our state who are faced with this fear every day and may not be believers or may not have a godly friend to speak truth into their life. I had someone in my life who was more concerned about truth than she was about my feelings. You know, she didn't play into that. She just gave me truth from Scripture. And it's exactly what I need. But I feel for those women who are out there and feeling alone and like there's no other house on the block for them. The only time I feel sick to my stomach thinking about my kids today is when we look at Roland, who was baby C, and think that we could have ever voluntarily decided to stop his heart. Because I can't imagine a world without Roland today. He is just a brilliant kid and a bright light and funny, and the world would be a lesser place without him. And I wonder how many bright lights like that we've lost. God has been so gracious and so abundant in our lives, and you know, I can't imagine another way. You know, at the beginning it was like, how can we get through this? And now I just can't imagine any other life. They make our lives so full. And it wasn't what we thought we wanted, but it was everything we needed. And we wouldn't be complete without any one of those kids in our lives. We would feel that void. Strangers will approach us and say, "Are those quadruplets?" And we'll get in a conversation, and you know, 50% of the time one of the kids will go, "You know, Mom prayed for one baby, but God knew that she needed all 4 of us." And, you know, they just get it. They just get it that this is special and it's a blessing. Hey, Nugget, can you say Mini Man? Say it again. Say Mini Man.